Hello, and welcome to another interview in our series where I speak to one of our global team of accredited research practitioners. I'm Paul Blunden, founder of UX247, and we help global brands reap the benefits from being more customer-centric. Anyway, let's get stuck in straight away and meet our guest. Right, hello, and thank you for giving up your time to speak with me today. Can I start by asking you to introduce yourself? What's your name and whereabouts are you based?
Sure, I'm happy to be here. My name is Malte. I am based in Hamburg, Germany, but I do lots of projects across the European continent.
Right. That actually leads very neatly to my next question, actually, because a lot of our researchers speak multiple languages. I guess you do the same. Please tell me a bit more about that.
Kind of. Well, of course, German is my native language, but then I have, well, sort of proficiency in English. So that's not an issue for me. And then I try to keep up with other languages as well. So I understand at least some Swedish, some Danish, Norwegian, Dutch, French, Spanish, so at least to get the sense of what someone else is writing about. So I can read some stuff, but hardly understand it.
Well, that's that's quite a list. Have you always lived in Germany, or have you lived in some of those countries?
No, I've always been here, Germany.
Right. Okay. Well, I think you're already winning the list of who speaks the most languages, or at least understands. So that's great.
Let's not put it too high up the pedal. No,
Okay.
up the what's it called? Up the pedal? No, up
Oh,
the
I
edit
don't
that out.
know. Anyway, so I'm really interested to know how Malte you came about getting into research. What was it that it sort of inspired you to get involved?
Well, I tried various things in my professional career. So I'm now in the digital or creative space for a bit more than 10 years. And I experienced, or I tried lots of things. I did classic account management. I did digital strategy. I did social media. I did classic UX design. But all of that helped me to understand the process of a product or whatever you're facing that you're working on from start to the end. And that helped me a lot to understand how people interact with these projects and digital products in general. And I think that it is one of my biggest advantages that I have to have this understanding and to also to be able to get into the minds of someone using the product. And I've always been good with people. So it came in handy when I had my first research projects. Where I thought, okay, this is something where I'm good at.
Yeah, sounds good. And do you have a favorite methodology that you've sort of used over the years?
I'd like to focus on qualitative methods, so interviews and focus groups, just to really get into people talking and then to have these chats and conversations with them and to really make them feel like they're contributing to something bigger than that chat might be in the situation.
Right. And have you used any other methodologies through the sort of development cycle?
Yes, I did classic surveys and analysis of them, and so quantitative methods are not unknown to me.
Right. Okay. So quite a broad range of methods as well as a few favorites. And
Yes, I'd like to think myself of being a generalist, and that also helps with research and just having this building up a connection with someone else.
yes, yeah, I agree. And what market sectors have you worked in or done research in, I should say?
It might be easier to exclude the ones that I haven't done any research or I haven't done projects in. So really, just as a very broad selection. Of course, me being an automotive engineer, so I studied automotive engineering back in the days. Everything that's around an automotive or mobility topic is a given. But apart from that, I did a lot of financial topics as well. I did FMCG, so really anything goes.
Right. Do you any sectors you prefer particularly, or other than automotive, perhaps, or maybe it is automotive?
I mean, in the end, I like to identify myself with what I'm doing, and I really like to work on something where I think, okay, I could really use that myself, or I could uh, at least also build a connection to that myself. And so everything where I am interested in, of course, it stuff's a lot easier. So automotive or mobility topics are a number one priority, but really I can adapt to almost anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you've got really broad experience, and I want to talk a bit about market maturity because it's something I ask a lot of our researchers when I speak to them, because it's so different around the world. And we have a sense, I suppose, in the UK that Germany is quite mature.
Mhm.
So I'd be really interested in your perspective on how mature the market is from somebody who lives and works there, and also how customer centric you think the major brands are in the German market.
Well, what do you think of the stereotypical Germans? They are very hesitant when it comes to new things, and that might change over the generations, but still we have a majority of people who just like to stick to what they know, and just don't like to stick to things that their parents or grandparents already used. And I stumbled upon that on several occasions when I did research. So people just talking to me and just being quite aware and risk aware in particular when it came to new things. So there is something, if you want to really know what people think of your product, or if you want to know what challenges your product is facing, then talk to Germans.
Um, so, well, thinking about that, I mean, in terms of brands working with products in Germany, what do you think the greatest challenges are for them when undertaking a UX research study?
Well, years ago, I stumbled upon that term of German Angst, and I think that sums it up pretty well. So you have to be really aware of people not jumping on the wagon because someone else told them to, but you have to convince them of your product or your service that it really gives them a benefit and adds value to their life.
To get them involved in the research, or as an outcome of the research, you mean in terms of getting them to use it?
It always helps to include them very early on in the research process, so that you already know what's gaps you have to fill, and how to really make them comfortable with what you're doing, what you're
Right.
offering.
Okay. Fascinating. Thank you. And could you tell me a bit about maybe a flagship project that you've worked on that you've delivered and really enjoyed?
Yes, I had the opportunity to work with a digital agency based in Sweden last year, and we developed a pan-European payment solution, and we did several rounds of research in 4 markets. So that those were Sweden, Germany, the Netherlands, France, and Spain. Oh, we'll make that 5 markets.
Right.
Um, and that was very fun because my role was there to coordinate the other researchers and to help them do the best they can to help us during the design process of that payment solution. And so I worked together with colleagues in those local markets and had them translating all the interviews back to English and guiding them through the research process, and also including them in the process itself. So for me, it's a very high priority. So everyone that I work with in such a project, to really make them part of the project and not just having them as like oh, you do your work and then give it to me and then goodbye, but really to include them and make them feel included in the project as well.
And how did the research change the product? Was it a new product, or was it something being evolved through the research?
It was a new product, but the most interesting stuff was what we already talked about earlier, was the differences in the European markets. So like French and Spanish behave differently to the Dutch and the Germans do. So to have a product that covers all, and it might be just simple thing as selection of colors, just that they are perceived differently across the European continent. It was very interesting.
Yeah, that kind of outcome of research across different markets, I think, is really interesting. What affects different cultures, and how do you sort of deliver a global product in that context? A few brands get it right. So it sounds like a really interesting project. I won't dive into any more in case you go into realms that you can't talk about.
There is such things as NDAs.
Yeah, I know there always are. So I won't ask anymore. But I am interested. You talked a bit about behaviours there, and I'm really interested in the behaviours in Germany that perhaps other global brands need to pay attention to. You've already alluded to a few as we've spoken, but perhaps you could speak a bit more about those.
Germans are very hard to excite. It is very, very troublesome to get some emotions out of them that are overly positive. So like something, if you don't get any negative feedback at all, that's positive. And you have to be quite aware of that. You have to learn that, what that means. So feedback culture is something that is, you have to be very proactive to get feedback on something.
So that would suggest something we believe in passionately, that to a certain extent, you've got to use German researchers in Germany if you really want to understand the local market, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Okay. And final couple of questions. One, and I'd like to know, even though you're German and perhaps don't get very excited about things, what's inspiring you at the moment?
I mean, the world is changing at the moment, and with topics like the climate crisis and everything else, it is very important for any company or any product to also include topics like sustainability into the process, and to see how can we make it the most accessible and most sustainable solution that there is for the challenge that we're facing.
Yes, I think that's on a lot of people's minds at the moment. You read about it a lot in the industry in particular. I've just been reading about it today, actually, with a newsletter I put together, so much about inclusivity, sustainability, democratization. It's, yeah, big subjects. And finally then, Malte, what's your biggest learning since you've been a researcher?
It's not that I have that biggest learning that I gain, but it's the small ones, and it's always to be surprised about what people tell you. It's always this, that there is something where you think, okay, in my wildest imagination, I would have never thought of this, and that's really something that is so valuable to all the product development that there is.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much for sparing your time to speak with me today. It's been really interesting.
Likewise.
Learning not just about Germany, actually, but about your cross-European project and the different cultural aspects there. I find that fascinating. But
My pleasure.
yeah, I'll wrap it up there and let you go. Thanks so much, Malte.
You're welcome.
Well, I hope you enjoyed finding out about Malte and the German market, and in fact, even beyond that, with the different work he's done. I'm Paul Blunden. I'm founder of UX247. And if you'd like to know more about what we do, please visit our website, ux247.com, or you can find me and message me on LinkedIn. And better still, subscribe to this channel, and you can see the next interview in the series when I talk to one of our other global researchers from around the world. Thanks for listening.